and welcome to If These Walls Could Talk. You're probably sitting here wondering why I am all by myself, dancing by myself today. Well, my fabulous co-host, Tym Moss, is gone to Gay Paris. Yes, Tim is being gay in Gay Paris and having croissants and bon vivant and mon Dieu. I think that's the extent of my French words, but he took a long needed trip to Paris because Tim has never been there. And he was just craving to see the Eiffel Tower and the Mona Lisa and heaven only knows what. But I'm missing him madly, but I know he's having a really great time. So I just said, au revoir, bon voyage. So thank all of you for being here with me today. Now, I had a sticky situation just happen. Unfortunately, our guest, who is fabulous, coming in from LA, got their time zones mixed up, and she is at the dentist right now. So I've been advertising the amazing Eve Richards this week, who has a podcast coming up, the Discovery Pod, but she won't be here because she's at the dentist. So I am going to be doing what we call a redo, but it's not really a redo because you've seen this guest before, but she has an incredible show coming up at Pangea. It is on Thursday, February 29th at 7 p.m. right here at Pangea. I love Suzanne Mack. She has an incredible voice. We had her on a whole bunch of months ago. And you know what? It's kismet that she would be performing here at Pangea this Thursday. So we are going to be rerunning her show. If you missed it the last time, please tune in with it this time. And I will be back next week. And I think Tim may even be back with me next week. You know, he just took a short little vacation to Paris. So you all have a great rest of week. And if you're in the neighborhood, Pangea's got, of course, some really great upcoming people coming here, like Maria Connor, her Tuesday night open mic night, which is normally Thursday night, is going to be Tuesday night. And that's at 8:30 in the front lounge here at Pangea. I'm telling you, everything is like discombobulated. I mean, is Mercury in retrograde? Who knows? Anyway, enjoy the show with Suzanne Mack. Thank you.
The music stopped.
Oh my God. And what do you do when the music stops because you want to keep dancing?
Well, I know when the music stops, I watch If These Walls Could Talk.
Oh, Tim, that was great. It's just a perfect segue. That's what I love about this guy. Hi, everybody. I'm your host, Wendy Stuart.
And I'm your other host, Tym Moss.
And we are so happy to be here with all of you today. A gorgeous day in New York.
It's like spring.
It is like spring. And, you know, you and I were very affected by the weather. I think I have that sad seasonal affected disorder.
I honestly really don't.
You don't?
No, I'm fine with the cold weather.
From the Midwest.
With the clouds, and I'm okay.
Those people from the Midwest are used to snow drifts and biting winds. Not this girl. I should be somewhere where there's
trees. The other day it was 20 degrees and I'm walking over the bridge singing like I always do.
I love that you do that. And for all of you who watch Tim on Facebook, those videos are great that he sings and he runs into celebrities. It's really cool.
Yeah, right.
You're really networking out there. It's not about the singing.
And I built up like a fan base, I swear, because I was dancing, I was singing Whitney Houston, I Want to Dance with Somebody, and I'm doing some spins as I'm walking, and here's a semi that's going by and he's waving, going, yeah.
I think he was trying to pick Tim up. That's probably why Tim is on the bridge in the first place.
Yeah, okay. I'm looking for a husband. I'm looking for a man.
Right. Looking for a husband in all the wrong places. And a shout out to my husband today, Alan Kaplan, who does all of our lighting. Alan is recovering from a surgical procedure, and couldn't be here today. So we hope.
So if we look weird, it's my fault. I tried to do the lighting.
But we're lit.
We're not lit.
Well, we're not lit in the biblical sense. So what a week. Randy Edelman, who's been on our show, the brilliant composer, and you know a lot of his music from movies. He came to town and he was at Chelsea Table. Beautiful concert. I mean, he was supposed to play, I think, like an hour and 20 or an hour and 30. It was 2 hours, and I loved every minute of it. The music that Randy plays, you can actually go into your head and think, what was I doing at that time? What was I going out with?
Yeah.
You know, really brings all those memories up. And we had a great after party after, and of course with Soho Johnny, Mickey Burns, Billy Hess photography. It was really, really great. And this is the highlight of my weekend also, though, as we are ending Black History Month. I had the opportunity to review Mandela. And the thing I learned from that is every day is Black History. It was really incredible to do a review of that show and then see how the things that happened during Nelson Mandela's time are I'm sorry to say, history is repeating itself again. And but I have to tell you, amazingly talented cast, husband and wife team that produced it, that both had like other jobs, but like us, passion. We all have other jobs, and passion is this industry. You can watch for them in the spring. I saw them at ATA, but they're going to be opening either at ATA again or another theater. So stay tuned. It was fabulous. It was fabulous.
I was unable to go to either one of those because I was in between New Jersey and Pennsylvania, and I went out and spent a weekend with my dear friends Lois, Jewel, and Doug Cortez. Yeah.
Cool.
And we went to had some wonderful meals, like right on the river, overlooking the city, and we were there at sunset, so we watched all the lights come on, and it was
I did
gorgeous.
See those pictures.
Yeah.
How
and
gorgeous.
then we went to Pennsylvania for dinner the next night. So
where I'm in Pennsylvania on the weekend.
Over at New Hope.
Oh, so yeah,
and Lambertville, and
that's about like an hour from me, but really, really gorgeous area. And yes, Tim, I did see that you were dining fine on Facebook.
Yeah.
I love being able to troll his events on Facebook. So, oh my gosh, when I met our guest today, let me just say that Arnaldo, who's one of the owners of Pangea, where we broadcast from, came over to me late one night. I had way too much to drink, and he said, "You have to meet Suzanne." And I'm like, okay.
And that's pretty much how he said
right,
it too.
You have to meet her. She has to be on the show. And I'm like, okay. And I met this beautiful, beautiful spirit, because that's what came through for me. She's often called a modern day Dietrich.
Yeah.
She's a master storyteller, a singer. What I find so completely fascinating about her, she really has a foot in both cultures. She grew up in Germany. She's performing and living here. And her new show, which is called Fragments, is at Pangea. You can come this Thursday, 7 o'clock. And she'll talk about her April dates, which have been added. And I just want her to talk about herself. Suzanne Mack.
Yes.
Come on down. Yes. I have to start feeling myself.
Yeah.
There you are.
We're going to get cozy. I got my arm around you.
Oh, my God. I like, Suzanne's got the right attitude for our show. Right? Cozy is always
gemütlich.
Right. What do you call it? Gemütlich. Is that German?
German.
Oh my God, she's here for
German
2 seconds.
cozy. I know. I'm already talking.
We're learning German.
I'm feeling at home.
No, you feel at home.
How are you doing?
Yeah.
I'm doing fine.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to be singing again and to be at Pangea again. It's been too long. It's been too long. I really stopped for a while after during the pandemic.
Well, hello, right?
I mean, who did, right?
Yeah.
And then I was also like, I don't know, questioning what we talked about this before. What am I actually doing, and why is this important? And then, after time, I was like, this is important to me. I want to keep going.
Right. Right. Well, people want to see you keep going. And I think you often deal with things like disconnection, dislocation, being a person that culturally you've got to put in both worlds.
Yeah, that's right.
And that is something that Tim and I really never did experience. But you grew up in Germany.
Yeah.
And
well, now,
in Germany.
Yeah. I just wanted to ask, because you've got your show, which is Thursday, March 3rd.
Yes, March 3rd, and then we added April 9th and May 20th. But
Okay, and that's here at Pangea.
Yay.
Now, was that your first show that you did since the pandemic?
Yes, that was the first show.
So,
It's like
just when you first set foot on that stage in front of a live audience, tell us about that feeling.
What was that moment?
It was overwhelming.
Yeah.
It was overwhelming. It almost threw me, I must admit.
Absolutely.
Because here I was, in the rehearsal room for weeks and months. You're by yourself, sometimes with a pianist, but mostly by yourself. And then all of a sudden you're in a room with people again.
Right.
Yeah, right.
And it was so emotional
Absolutely.
to step out there, to look into their faces. It was just, it was really beautiful.
It is
Just
overwhelming.
It's overwhelming
to share space with people again.
Even without, I could have just been there silent.
Right.
Right. I mean, I would have just still taken in so much.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea, like perperformance art. We should think about
Just
doing
sit
that.
there.
No, just get up on the stage
Marina
and that's
Abramovich.
right, Maria Abramovich. That's who you made me think of.
Yeah.
Damn, I think that's brilliant. I love what comes out of these discussions.
So I'm sorry, I had interrupted.
Yeah, no,
you were mentioning German.
Yeah,
so I want to hear about Germany.
I have traveled to Germany more than a few times, and let's think I was on the Dutch-German border one of the times. Of course, I've been to Hamburg and some of the other areas in Germany. Absolutely beautiful country. But you grew up on the Swiss-German.
I did. I grew up all the way in the south, in the southwest.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, southwest.
People always ask, Munich, Bavaria, and I'm like, no, it's close to Switzerland and France, two bordering countries.
So it's Switzerland and France.
Okay. And it's called the corner of the three countries, because actually three countries are bordering each other.
I love that.
Right. And we really sometimes we biked to France to get cheese, and we went to Switzerland to get.
Stop bragging!
I know.
I know.
I know.
I can't even
imagine. We just was New Jersey and Connecticut.
Right, but there's a bridge? Isn't there like a bridge where you can between the two countries that you can?
You can be with I have this in my last show. You can be with one foot in each country.
That's so cool.
There was this mark in the middle of the bridge, and when I was a kid, I was doing that. I was stepping with one foot. I was in Switzerland with the other foot. I was in Germany. And I thought it was so cool.
That's so metaphoric for me about you, because you've always had a foot in both worlds. When I read that about you, I'm like, here you are, this little kid. And you had the bridge, and you
it was always there.
Right. Yeah. But your history and how you've grown and coming here, and your connection to Germany, it's a foot in both worlds.
Yeah, it is
in so many ways. So when you were growing up in Germany,
in small town Germany,
small town.
Oh my God.
Now, was there a combination of like Swiss and German cultures there in that region?
Yeah, there is a combination, I would say, although it's very distinct. I mean, the Swiss, we have a very similar dialect, the Swiss-German dialect. It's close, but the Swiss would always know if it's German. It's
if
not
you're on
Swiss.
that side of the bridge.
There's a
Swiss, they're always outing people.
A little bit. My husband is Swiss.
That lovely man I met is
yes.
Swiss.
So on the Swiss, on the border, but we do cross because we get coffee there. They get this from us. The meat is cheaper, so they always come to us to buy meat and other stuff. So it's like it's cheap meat.
They come for we're here for the cheap meat.
So it's friendly, but a little bit competitive,
Of course, but I guess that's I
and we want to be associated with the Germans, right? So the Swiss.
Well, what do you mean?
Yeah. I mean, with Germany's history, of course. I
of
think
like World War II.
World War II. I felt all the European countries were always, understandably, a little bit. Oh my God, Germany. I mean,
really? So you could feel that growing up.
I felt that. I felt that when we were on vacation in France or Italy, and you had to say where you come from, and I said where I came from, and some kids would not, play with me.
Oh my God!
It is interesting because everyone I know, like Suzanne, that grew up with that, I call it I am so sorry, I was not a part of it. You were a victim of it because
I wasn't a victim. It's my country's history.
Right, it's the country's history.
So I have to, everyone who is there has to kind of deal with it. I was born in 1965. You think it's 20 years after the end of the war, but I could still,
the shadows were still there.
So many shadows. And in the culture, we talked about taboos a little bit before. That I could definitely sense. I couldn't link it to like any Nazi history or to my country's history, but I realized that there were certain things, a lot of things that were not spoken about.
Right.
It's not really
Right.
my grandparents. I grew up because I was an only child. I was an illegitimate child. So I grew up with my grandparents, and there was no talk about the war. Just
No,
nothing.
it just didn't exist.
Wow.
I remember when I came home from history class, learning about the 6
Did they
million
teach?
Jewish
They
Jews.
did teach about the 6
Of
million.
course,
Yeah.
they did. Our school took this very serious. I think by then, 1965, it was okay. We have to hammer this into people's heads. Never again, never again. So I did bring this, but coming home with this, there was there was silence.
Right.
There was,
Wow.
And here you were. You had to be deeply affected emotionally by.
But also, your generation, you would have been like pretty much the second generation out. Like your parents would have received immediately right after.
Yeah, exactly.
So that would have been a completely different mindset. And then your generation, which they just start talking about it, your parents' generation probably wasn't ready. They just couldn't communicate about it. Yeah.
They
maybe too soon.
communicate about it.
Because they were a different, they came out immediately after.
Right,
After
And
the
I went
war.
there I think 10 to 12 years ago, I think Aachen. And there were houses there. This really blew me away that had who the Jewish families were that originally lived there.
Wow.
And stones in the street dedicated to the people that had lived in that neighborhood. I mean, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible.
One thing that kind of blew me away, I had went to my friend's wedding outside of Munich in Bavaria.
Yeah.
Which
Bavaria is
gorgeous.
gorgeous.
I love it.
I love it too.
And we had went down to Austria, down to I can't think of the name. Salzburg.
Salzburg. Oh my God.
Yes, the Salzburg.
Yeah,
and we were up in the mountains, up in the Alps, which is absolutely
it's gorgeous.
breathtaking.
Yeah.
And so we stopped the car so that I could get out, and I took a couple pictures, and I did the spin, and I was saying, "The hills are alive with the sound of music." And they go, "What is that from?" And I said, "Oh, The Sound of Music, the movie." And they go, "What is that?" They had never seen or heard.
Yeah,
I love it.
Because it was about Nazi Germany and
which is
the
so
musical.
sad because it's such a
And it's
beautiful music.
incredible. And it never occurred to me that Germany would not show it.
It was like they were in denial
I
of it.
never even thought about it.
But okay, Tim's bringing up a good point. As entertainers, as theatrical people, what could be better than to teach people in this country about what happened, right? Because it can be an issue in this country, and it is actually an issue now. There are deniers popping up all over. What could be better than to have a beautiful movie like that people can come and learn the history?
But now you're aware of The Sound of Music.
Yes.
Okay.
But only when I moved in the 90s.
Right.
Was my first time that I lived in New York City. In the 90s.
Wow.
And oh my God, I lived a different life then. I was an investment banker.
See, I don't know any of this. I love this.
No, don't.
Wait,
you don't want to know much
No,
about
we
that.
do because
So you
my
moved,
God.
what
I
brought
moved,
you here in the
Here's
first
the thing.
place?
Okay, it's a long story.
Okay.
I really wanted to be a singer. Was out of the question for my parents. I didn't have the guts at the time to say I'm going to do my thing. So okay, I studied literature and economics, and then my first job, I had no clue what my first job was going to be. And there was this fair, this career fair.
And a guy came.
In
Germany, right?
This is in Switzerland now. I studied at University of Basel, which was right across the border. Basel. So they were like, yeah, you can become a banker. And I thought to myself, if they knew I had no clue about money, I still don't have no clue about money.
Well,
but I was
you can become a banker.
But they said you can become a banker. 18 months in Switzerland and 18 months in New York. And I'm like, yes, I could be a banker.
With a job, no
I
less.
love it.
I think I wanted to, the idea for me to go to New York,
Hilarious.
even if it was through banking, I would take
I know,
any
it's brilliant.
I
opportunity.
love it.
Because I also really wanted to get away. And that finally was the reason. And I thought New York would open up all these possibilities for me.
Wow.
And
so were you like
I
a
came
Credit
here in the
Suisse?
90s.
Who did you work for then? Which
Swiss Bank.
Swiss
It was
Bank.
Swiss Bank at the
Swiss
time.
Bank, yeah.
Now they're called UBS.
UBS.
I was working in human resources. I was recruiting people. I went to campus recruiting. That's what I did.
What a great job.
Yeah, it was a great job. But you were asking something different. Why did I come in the 90s? you were asking why.
Well, what brought you here?
Yeah,
Yeah,
what brought
and
me
this was
here?
it was
yeah,
the job.
In the 90s, it was my job.
It was
exactly.
your job.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I loved New York. I didn't want to leave. I remember.
Isn't that funny?
Uh-huh.
Did it feel like home to you?
It felt
It
home
felt
to
like
me.
home. That's what people say.
It felt home to me.
You're
And no
supposed
one
to be
asked
there.
me where I was from at the time. No one asked.
No one
No,
cares.
no one cares.
Yeah, right.
No one cared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, people are from
So
all
they
over,
were-
especially in the banking world. They're from all
Yeah,
over. It is interesting though, because the passion, the burning passion to be a singer,
Yes.
was in there the whole time.
Whole
But
time.
like so many, you were trying
Yeah.
to please your grandparents
Oh yes, definitely.
and do the
do the right thing. Do the
Right.
right thing for my mom, as I said. And this story, I want to talk about a little bit about that because
Absolutely.
it also has to do with like what I was doing here, my first show, Reconciliation. You know, has to do with my family history. I was not only an illegitimate child. I hate the term. So my, you know, it was in the 60s in the south of Germany. It was a big deal to be pregnant without a father.
Wow.
Yeah.
I always, like later on, to understand my mom better, I always felt like, why can it be such a big deal? Because it's better now. But I think for her, it really was.
I imagine.
Not only was it strict Catholic, very strict, my grandparents, and also like small town. And then, you know, my mom.
And she was
becomes
pregnant.
And she didn't say who the father. She didn't talk to mom.
And how old was she, Suzanne? Because that
She
plays
was-
into it too.
She was in her 30s. She was in her early 30s.
Mhm.
That's
But
so
her-
interesting because you can do that anywhere
Wow,
now, and
of
no
course.
one would use
No,
the word.
yeah.
Right.
No.
Wow.
But she was so ashamed by that.
Of course.
That
Wow.
she didn't talk
Catholic.
about it,
Yeah.
right? She didn't
Mhm.
talk about it. And here's the thing: she didn't talk about anyone. She didn't talk to me about it. She just, not even to her closest
So she
friends.
again just carried
She
this
carried
shame
this big
or
shame,
Yeah,
this
right.
big
around with
big
her. Yeah.
secret. Here comes
That'd
the
be a
thing.
lot.
She thought, okay, one day I'm going to tell her. I guess that's what she thought. And then he passed away when I was 18. He passed away.
Oh my gosh!
Mm.
You're
And then-
only living parent you lose.
And then she told me, and the thing, the impossible thing is he lived 2 blocks away from me, you know.
That's an incredible story.
He lived really 2 blocks away from me, and I remember as a child, I would always open the window at night because I liked to singing out of the window. And my grandparents and my mother would always come and close the window, you know. And
So they knew that he was.
I don't think, you know what,
near.
according to my mom, nobody knew. But I talked to people later. This is a small
It's a
town.
small
in
town.
Right,
How-
Germany.
he would have.
exactly.
And I
known,
realized
right? Everyone knew.
Everyone knew.
Right.
But people, you know, talk about it behind the back. And so for mom,
But
there
he
was
had
a
this
lot of,
little child, and
That's
he
right.
knew.
Right.
He
That's
knew.
Now, did he know?
He knew.
He
He
did
would have
know.
had
He
to
knew.
in a small
Uh-huh.
town.
yeah, he knew. And so, but he didn't have time. You know, I guess they waited too long. My mother didn't want it. My mother said at some point, okay, I'm going to do it by myself. You know, I think they had a long relationship, which they kept hidden for a long time.
Hmm.
And I'm thinking the reason why she never talked about it ties in for me with that culture that came out of the Second World War.
Right.
We don't
right.
talk about
Absolutely.
this. This is shameful.
No
We don't
matter how
anything.
how traumatic
how
or
traumatic,
how
how personal.
right.
We
Don't talk
just
about
don't
it.
talk about it.
Right.
As long as we don't talk about it.
Right. It doesn't exist.
Yeah. Right.
But here I existed.
Mhm.
And even if she didn't talk about it, but I could always feel the weight.
Uh-huh.
I think
Of
that makes
course you
sense.
could,
Yeah,
but part of it, I'm
absolutely.
thinking he was still in the town. Were
He
they
was in
town.
were they seeing each other at all during that period when you were growing up?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh
they
my!
did. They did see each
Wow.
other. I think they stopped when I was about 12. This is when she ended it. She officially ended it. But they still saw each other.
Now, had you
Yeah.
ever met him, but not knowing?
Just as a guy who was a tennis coach in town.
Right.
Oh,
that's what I
wow.
mean.
He
But
was a
you
tennis
knew
coach.
who
I
he
knew
was.
who he
and-
was, of
He
course.
was your father.
He was my
And
dad.
he was your
Wow.
dad.
And then when my mom told me, she told me literally on the day of his death.
Oh my
And
goodness.
then she also said, I kept this a secret all my life. Nobody knows. I expect you to also be silent about that.
Wow.
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 What a
wow.
burden.
That's a
A burden. Now
And-
a double
And
burden.
you know what? And I couldn't.
uh-huh.
Good.
And I felt hurt. I thought it was at the time, I was so young. I thought, wow, my mother kept this a secret all her life, and I have to kind of continue this for her. This is
Mhm.
important, but I just couldn't do it. I
Mhm.
just could not
You
do it. It
just-
was just really too heavy.
Right.
So I started talking to friends
In
you know,
the area?
in the area to my
Uh-huh.
friends. And
How old were you
know,
when that happened?
it's 19, 19. Or we went
Mhm.
to a cafe, and I knew that one of
Right.
his sons was sitting there, and I was.
Oh, right. You went
I
half
said
brothers.
I said to my friend,
My
what?
half
This is like,
brother.
do I look like him? She said, what do you mean? This is Yogi telling. I said, but do I look like him? She's like, what are you talking about?
Oh my
Because I-
God!
An incredible story of
So
a
you would have went to
secret.
school with your half siblings and not even
Yeah,
known it.
Probably.
that's right. Yeah, that's
Oh my
Yeah.
God!
Yeah.
Did you only become aware of your half siblings? Like,
Yeah.
how old were you when you were aware that there were
that
other
there were
kids?
other kids. I mean, of 3 of them right away, because I knew he had these 3 sons, and of the another one maybe 2 years later. 2 years later, there was another half sister with a different woman. I guess my father was quite a womanizer.
Quite.
Oh,
quite
that
a-
was kind of
yeah.
the lead-in for your
And-
song I saw at the cabaret. For Papa was a Rolling Stone.
Oh yes, yes.
That was
Okay.
brilliant.
Yes, yes, yes.
I know there was
Family was
someone
a
that
Rolling
reviewed one of your
Stone.
shows that were like they said something like they weren't quite sure where that fit in, and reading about and now finding out more that
Yeah.
fit in perfectly. I
It
can't.
did.
You know what? Art imitating life, imitating art. I can't think of right. Right. Papa really was a Rolling
Papa was a
Stone.
Rolling
Yeah.
Stone.
Now,
Oh,
and
yeah.
your mother, I read that used to
Yeah.
give you fake like Christmas gifts from him.
Yes,
Pretend
yes, exactly.
that she kept the
She kept
the,
that going. She
like
said,
as if
okay,
he said
Well-
Christmas gifts to her, and he
Do you
did.
think he
Yeah.
might have?
But she also, which is kind of
But
funny,
she said that.
she sometimes forgot what she said. She made up all these stories who he was, and she made up different stories.
Oh, uh-huh.
And I realized after a while because they never matched. One
Yeah.
time it was because she worked in the dental industry. So
Uh-huh.
one time it was a dentist in the northern part of Germany, and I was like, oh, a dentist in the northern part. And then the next time it was some actor that she met, and I was like, okay. And then I don't know who it was. She will always make up new stories about who that father was, and so I had a lot of fantasies
Wow.
about that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Who this person?
Yeah,
could
the
possibly
actor.
be.
Right.
Little did I know that he was just
Oh my
down the
goodness.
street.
And the tennis
you know,
coach.
the
Now,
tennis
your
coach. Oh, my God.
grandparents were also in on this. Did they make up any stories, or they just didn't speak
You know,
about it?
it's a funny thing. They were not in on this. At least, they were not.
Wow. They never knew.
They never knew. I mean, they knew her stories. I think they knew about the dentist and the
Right.
from
But they never knew it was a tennis coach.
No, they never knew. It was
This
a
is
dentist.
a movie,
Wow.
Suzanne. If anybody's
Yeah,
listening,
yeah.
Right,
you
that's a
need to
script.
option this story. Charlize Theron will play you.
Yes.
Oh,
Right?
wow. Okay.
We'll have Charlize. No, because this is such
Right.
an incredible
Fascinating.
story, both historically
Yes,
on so
Well,
many
and
levels.
culturally, and
Yes,
yeah.
Tim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Right. But it,
So, well, one thing that you had mentioned before the
Yeah.
interview was like taboos. That
Yes,
you had mentioned
taboos.
that you grew up in a fairly strict Catholic
Yeah.
upbringing,
so true. Yeah.
and that like there were things that like that just were not talked about or
Yeah.
anything.
Right.
Do you
Off
think
limits.
that?
Yeah.
And now you make a point
Yes.
like all
Yeah,
taboo talk
right.
is off the
Yeah.
table.
True. Yeah.
You will say it, and I
Yes.
love that you broke that
I
pattern.
love it.
Yeah. Me
Do you
too.
think that's because
Liberating.
of your mother keeping
Yeah.
these things, that's why you don't want your children
Yes,
to
right,
have,
of
you don't want to
course.
have any secrets from your children?
No, I don't want to have any secrets.
Mhm.
That's definitely, that comes from that time, because
I
I
would
know
imagine.
how repressive that felt, and how,
Mhm.
oh my God, it's like I cannot even find words for it. It was
Well, I would imagine uncertainty,
uncertainty, and I also thought, okay,
Who am I?
because you're
What-
talking
yeah.
identity, yeah.
yeah,
Right,
identity.
identity,
Mhm.
and having
And-
to hide part of your identity.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
not knowing what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah,
So your mom passed at 18
yeah.
May when you were
My
18
dad.
May. She rest in
Yes.
peace, and then your dad.
My dad passed.
Your
away when I was
dad.
18. My mom's still alive. She's 91.
Okay. Wow.
Yes.
And
So that's a
still-
piece of this
Yes,
whole puzzle.
right.
She has gotten to see you
Right.
perform.
She has come.
Oh my
Oh.
God.
She came. She came after all that time. She came to see the last show. She
Uh-huh.
can't come right now. It was great. Oh, she came to see the reconciliation show. Where I'm talking about her, of course, and I'm talking about, my father's
That's
wife.
that's a lot.
My father's
That's a
wife,
lot.
who she's been this, like, who was a close friend of her, and the two women didn't talk for decades. And then when I finally went to my father's wife, her friend, my mother's friend, they started talking again. So it was nice for the two women to reconcile.
Right.
Okay, this is a TV series.
Okay,
yes,
this is
right.
even beyond the film.
But when my mom came, no, she was there. She was very moved. She was very moved. She was the one who was always like, no, don't perform, don't sing, don't talk. I think she was afraid that I would maybe say something about that history,
Right.
But she was pleased with your presentation of it.
Loved it.
Oh,
Right.
that's wonderful.
She was.
What was it like for you, though, having her here? Reconciliation. And what that meant for you. What was this all like for you that night, the opening night?
It was emotional to have that there. I mean, thank God I had already had several conversations with her. We went to therapy together. We did a lot of things.
You did work together.
We did work together,
okay.
because it affected my life. I think she could see it. I could not move on in my own life, neither professionally nor like emotionally. I couldn't have a relationship. I felt everything was like, I didn't know who I was coming for. My identity was shaken.
Wow.
So everything, she saw that I was struggling so much.
Right.
So she realized, okay, you know what? We have to talk about these things. We have to come to terms somehow, and then, and so a lot of this was already going on in our relationship, and that she understood. It took her a long time to understand me, because she felt I'm the victim. Wasn't I the victim? I'm the victim of my time. I said, no, it doesn't have to be about that you're the victim. I'm sure you're the victim of your time, but I want you to acknowledge what happens if you are not talking to me, if you are denying me the birthright to know who my dad is. You know, and
boy, girl, you have a lot of chutzpah, as we say, because this is a lot of is heavy stuff to break down within families. These kinds of secrets.
Absolutely. Well, go ahead.
Oh yeah, but what was nice for me after the first show, I was also a little bit, I was also feeling shameful to come out with that stuff, because there was so much shame at home in my family.
But you did it on a stage.
And I did it on a stage.
Wow.
And I thought this was serious. What do all these people think, And because, I'm also tying it in a little bit with the Holocaust and a bit of culture. What do these people
Wow.
And people came up to me after the show and they shared their family secrets.
Wow.
And then I thought, okay, this is something that can unite us more than isolate, because I thought it would isolate me, but
you took the risk.
I took the risk.
You jumped off the bridge.
I jumped off that bridge, and people came, and it was
because that is a frightening prospect. That took guts to do that, because you don't know what people's reaction are going to be, and that's wonderful.
And as performers, you always think your audience is judging you. Oh my God, are they liking this song or whatever? You took it one step further. You were sharing family secrets. You were sharing your deepest secrets that were in with you, and that you had really done so much work to start to out. That takes a lot of guts.
Thank you, Wendy. Yes,
thank you. A lot of guts.
Absolutely.
But it's worth it.
Yeah, well, look at, I met your husband here, a few weeks ago.
Now I'm thinking,
what a great guy. You met, you met a great guy.
And I'd always almost messed it up with him. I was so messed up, and I was so not ready to commit. I couldn't have
also you never really had, well, perhaps your grandparents, but you never really had a solid relationship.
No, I didn't see a father and a mother. How they would.
You didn't have that to pursue or to look forward to. Wow.
Absolutely.
Well, you are watching If These Walls Could Talk with your hosts Wendy Stuart and Tym Moss, and our amazing and wonderful guest, the fabulous Suzanne Mack.
Yay!
Now we've got a few people on. We've got quite a few people on.
We've got B. Claudia on from Germany. Hello, B. Claudia. Thank you for tuning in.
We want to say hello. We were talking about you beforehand. Say hello to B. Claudia.
Absolutely.
Now there's a couple things that you said. One is Guten Abend. Aus
she
Deutschland.
is in Germany?
Comfortable.
Guten Abend, Claudia.
Just a second. I saw Teresa Sabin.
Yes,
was on Apollo Cabrera, my buddy Apollo.
Hi, everybody.
Hi. Let me see. V. Claudia Icavelli. We love Icavelli.
Love you, Ike.
We do want to know. I want to move to New York. Claudia says that. Lottie Da, our good friend, she says, "Hey Suzanne, have a wonderful time with Wendy and Tym.
Oh yeah.
All rock."
Thank you.
I can't. I don't
I
know
love
how to
that
say
Big
her name.
Claudia wants to move to New York. We would love
yeah.
you would fit in so well here.
Yeah.
Now,
so
B,
well.
B. Claudia also says, and she is from a small town
She
too.
is. Blue
I
hair.
had blue hair in that town, and
I
my
believe-
divorced mom supported me
Oh.
and my LGBTQ friends always. I
Oh.
totally
She's amazing.
get here.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
that's wonderful.
It
That's
is.
nice
That's
to
so
hear.
nice
She's great.
And Jenny
Oh, she's so
Bookwalder wanted to know if
fun.
you are single. No, she's married
not.
with children.
Married with
Right.
2 teenagers.
Yes. And Sue Stutson says, so nice to you, of you all here.
Thank
So
you.
we're-
Hey, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Wanda.
who
Now
tuned
we're
in.
gonna why don't we take a look at one of your
Yes.
videos? But can you tell us
yeah.
a little bit about
Yeah,
the
a little
video
backstory.
before we
Little
see it?
backstory. So the last show was about immigration, and oh my God, yes, I was inspired by the current events at the time.
And when was it? Tell us when.
Oh, it was when Trump was trying to build that wall.
Okay,
in-
yeah, that's important. No, that's important
Right, that's-
backstory.
Yeah,
immigration,
so I was like, and I was like, okay, now I'm going to write about this, and how can I write about this? I was really writing from the perspective from people in Mexico and I was working with Gretchen Cryer.
Oh my
She's very-
God, of course.
Mhm.
She's very good,
very
at the solo
famous
performance,
and very
Broadway show, taking it on the road.
right. Right, it
and,
says that taking it on the road.
putting my act together and
Taking it on the
Taking it on the
road,
road.
right?
Yes,
you,
yes.
you know, great. Oh my
Yes,
God,
yes.
you were working with
It was
Gretchen.
yeah,
Clark.
yeah.
Oh,
And she is also, like, she's a solo performer. So it
Mhm.
was about telling stories. And so I was trying to put this together. And then at some point she said, you know what, Suzanne, you're not from Mexico. You don't live at the border. Don't
Right,
talk
yeah.
about the things that you know. You just,
she's
you know,
yeah,
and she was like, right, I think, yeah, I get it. So I was trying to put all my immigration thoughts together. You know, what I had about belonging or not belonging. and what I had to say.
dislocation, alienation, right?
There was so much to
Right.
say, and not only about being in different countries, people from different backgrounds or
Right.
or just,
Right.
And also
and
stepping into the unknown.
stepping
and
into the unknown, exactly. So that song came about. I wanted to have that one story in the show because I lived in Zurich at the time,
Mhm.
and Switzerland can be very alienating. I'm sorry, but to
I've
foreigners,
heard that.
it's hard to get a visa there. It's hard to
And it seems everything is very high end.
It's high end,
Very high end
exactly.
in
It's high end,
Switzerland,
yeah.
and clean.
right.
It's clean.
Yeah, so,
So
but
I was pregnant in Switzerland, and I will never forget that story because it really happened. We were walking home. I'm pregnant, and it's a January night, and there a boy comes up and says, can you walk with me? They're after me. And
my
we're like,
goodness.
sure, you can walk with us. We took him to, the bus was up there, and she said I had to go to the bus, and there was no one. I thought first, and I was looking. There was a group of teenagers down the street, and they, as I was looking, they came running towards us, and they were all like still after the boy, and
Oh,
they
my
had
goodness.
a broken beer bottle in
Oh,
their hand.
and you were pregnant.
I was pregnant.
oh my goodness.
And the thing is, like, that's something I learned while being pregnant. I had a lot of guts while I was pregnant. That was the nice thing about it.
It's the hormones pumping.
It is. It really sucked otherwise. It just sucked.
Powered by an embryo.
But I felt I was a little bit like, I could be myself.
Yeah.
So I was like, I had this instinct, where I was like, because here there was with a broken beer bottle, and they were like around my,
Oh, my
chasing up the guy.
goodness.
And I said, you know what? You were a little boy once, and I'm gonna be mom soon. You were a boy once, and you were a boy too. We should just all go home.
Right.
And I remember that he was just so surprised about this
Right.
response that he dropped the beer bottle and he was holding my hand. And then I could see he's a 15-year-old guy from whatever the Balkan countries. They were not very well regarded
Right.
at the time. And he was looking into my eyes and said, "Good luck with your baby, man. Good luck with your baby."
Oh, wow.
And then whoosh, and they all left. And I wanted that story in the show because I thought
Absolutely,
there
yeah.
was such a connection at this
Absolutely.
moment.
Very human.
With a human connection, and he could see me, I could see him, and we were just like, and then later on the police came and there were criminals from the back, and I was like, no, this is a young boy,
Right,
they're 15,
right.
From the
Just
Balkans.
from the
Yeah.
Balkans,
Yeah,
exactly,
from
not
the Balkans.
criminals. So then and then that had to be in the show about immigration, right? And then I thought, okay, what song? And I thought, heroes came to mind because I think we can all be everyday heroes
Yep.
in our life.
Yep.
We can all stand up for each other.
Mhm.
And what is it called? Social? No, this is a word for it. If you're streetwise. No, there is a better word for it. You know what I mean? You can just all like when you see something on the subway, so you can stand up. You can say this is not right or this is
See
right.
something, say
You
something.
see something, say
something. Right.
Exactly.
That's saying.
So that's the everyday hero.
Well, it's kind of like
and
a
also,
personal responsibility to
Yeah.
help your
Right.
fellow man.
Exactly
Yeah.
right. That we are have to
and
be
it's
accountable.
also
Yeah.
and it's also that David Bowie wrote it when he was
Right. We
when
can
he
all
was
be
living in
heroes.
Berlin.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he was on the wall. I mean, Candy's was stalked. He was on the wall during the show, and he was always so affected by it that people from both countries could hear it. So Heroes was resonating with me in many ways.
I love it.
Joanne Maserali says it's the mama bear syndrome.
I love it. No, it is. Joanne hit the nail on the. It is.
It's the mama bear syndrom. That's right.
Absolutely.
I love that word.
Well, why don't we take a listen to our wonderful
Hero.
guest, Suzanne Mack, singing Heroes.
It's one of my favorite songs, by the way. Here we go. Okay, video. Oh, God bless.
I will be king, and you will be queen. Though nothing will drive them away, we can beat them just for one day. We can be heroes just for one day. And you can be mean, and I drink all the time. 'Cause we're lovers, and that is the fact. Yes, we're lovers, and that is that. But nothing would keep us together. We could steal time just for one day. Or we could be heroes forever and ever. What you say? You know, one afternoon, when David Bowie was living in West Berlin, he was looking out the window of his studio, and he saw a couple kissing by the Berlin Wall. And he found that very touching, and he wrote that song. 10 years later, he came back to Berlin to perform that song live in a concert. And they backed up the stage to the wall, and thousands of people from East Berlin came close to the wall on the other side to hear it. And he was hearing people cheering and singing along from both sides. I wish you could swim like dolphins can swim. 'Cause nothing will keep us together. We can beat them forever and ever. Oh, we can be heroes just for one day. I can remember standing by the wall, and the guns shot above our heads, and we kissed as though nothing could fall. And the shame was on the other side. We can beat them forever and ever. Then we can be heroes just for one day. We can be heroes just for one day. We can be heroes just for one day. We can be heroes just for one day.
Oh my God, that was perfect.
Oh, God.
And especially, I know the song, I love this song, but hearing what had caused you to choose that song is really amazing. That experience with that 15-year-old boy from the Balkans and the crowded teenagers. You know, the backstory is always everything.
It's always everything.
And that also just gives the that particular song complete meaning.
Right.
Yeah,
You know, that's
yeah.
where you're
Right.
I
coming
love
from.
that about my shows,
Mhm.
and that
I
I
do
can
too.
always
Right.
I start with a story, and then I look for a song that is all the heavy
Mhm.
lifting for me,
Right.
and I
Right.
or just not just the heavy lifting, but just just
Yeah, that's going to say
connect
it.
it to what I want to say.
Absolutely.
you know.
Well, that's one thing I admire about you is the intensity of your different shows. They
Yeah.
each have a complete story.
Yeah,
Yes,
And
right,
and
yeah.
tell us about your different shows
Yeah.
real quick.
right.
Oh,
So we
and
can-
I'm going to hear right first where you started with your very first show, because we left
Yeah.
off.
Oh yeah,
You were at the Swiss
yeah.
Bank.
Right.
Yes.
Oh
Oh my
that's
God.
it.
Yes.
Yes.
The Swiss Bank.
The Swiss
Okay.
Bank.
So
Oh
let's.
my
Yeah. So you came to New York, and how did you get on the
Yes.
stage?
Yeah. Oh my God. Oh well, at that time I started in the evening to work with Barbara Meyer.
Barbara
Meyer
I host
Guston?
Barbara Meyer
Oh,
Guston.
she's great.
She's fabulous.
She's a great person.
So I started working with her in the evenings, because I
You
knew her.
you
through
wanted
some-
to sing.
I wanted to
and-
sing, and
yeah.
I did start to sing at Don't Tell Mama. Sydney Meyer at the
So
time.
So
did
you started with. Oh my
I
God!
started while I was
we don't
there.
want these things.
While I was there, I was doing a few shows, but then it was time for me to move back, and I thought I can continue this in Europe. But it
So
was
this
much
was in
harder.
your 16-month
Yeah.
thing. You,
Yes, right. In my
While
18
you were
month
here.
thing.
18
While I was
month thing.
here,
Wow.
I went to I went to Don't Tell Mama, and I had a show. But this show was
That's
about
so
oh my God,
cool.
it was about Marlene Dietrich. I think. Yeah, it was about Marlene Dietrich and all these songs, because these are the songs I grew up with.
Of course.
The Smile and the Eisler and all these songs,
Right.
and which is great. But I love to choose pop songs right now, not just pop, but just a more
Mhm.
variety of songs.
Well, I love
Right.
that you
Because I think-
combine the two.
I can combine them. I love to combine them from different genres, and
So that first show was
That was-
Don't Tell
that's
Mama.
Don't Tell Mama.
Wow.
Sydney
How
Meyer.
fabulous.
I remember that.
And
Yeah.
then you went back to Germany.
Then I went back to
Back
Germany.
to the same small
actually,
town?
No, I went back to Zurich because the bank.
Oh,
the
okay.
bank,
Oh,
right,
right,
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
You had that cushy bank
But
job.
also my husband was in Zurich at the time. We had a long distance relationship for 2
And your
years.
husband was
And
Swiss.
he was Swiss, and we had
Okay.
already met before I left
I was
for
going
New
to
York.
say you were like
already-
what, in your 20s?
I was in my 30s.
in your 30s.
Very
when
early
you did-
30s.
Early 30s.
29,
yeah.
30. Yeah.
Wow.
And I went back to Zurich, and then I knew I couldn't continue with the bank. I just couldn't do it. And then I had to find other ways, and I was singing and had some jobs on the side. I did mentoring with young women, which
Oh.
was very nice.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Helping
Yeah,
them
yeah.
find
Well,
jobs.
because you had worked in human resources.
Exactly.
It's a no-brainer. Yeah.
So how did the two of you get
Hmm.
back to New York then?
So he, in the meantime, he became an art dealer, and
Oh,
he
wow.
opened a gallery in New York.
Oh
And
my God.
Yes, he's
How
a gallery.
proud.
And then he said, well, should we do this? Our kids were still really little. I said, yes, let's do it.
Yeah.
Because I always wanted to find another way to come back to New York.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, let's do that.
Perfect. We'll have a gallery.
And I'm like, yeah, for 1 or 2 years. And so now it's been 14 years.
What's the name of the gallery? You have to tell us.
Hauser and Wirth.
And
Hauser and Wirth.
fabulous.
It's an art gallery for contemporary art.
I love it.
Excellent.
Wow.
Yeah, I love it. And I also love, I think they also really inspired me, all these artists there,
Right.
to see that they were doing their thing. And I thought,
Mhm.
maybe if they're doing their thing, I
Right.
could still do my thing. And
Yeah.
it's okay, and
Right.
I could see their creative process. I could see that even the most, famous artists, they all have doubts. They all have
Of
self-doubt.
course,
But I thought, I
absolutely.
only have self-doubt.
Right, right,
So I'm like,
right.
okay.
It's not all about
and I'm
you.
like, if
Right,
so-and-so
right,
has self-doubt, so-and-so,
Right.
okay, maybe that's okay to have doubts.
Right.
Like, so that,
I don't think Andy Warhol had any self-doubt.
Oh, maybe
really,
maybe
no,
Warhol
no
didn't.
conscience and no self-doubts. But you really hit the nail on the head. Of course, artists
Right.
have
That's the driving force of artists.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
driving.
right driving
So
force.
there was, it was good to see. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And like, I felt okay.
So you came back with the
Yes.
art gallery, and
Yes.
that's when you started pursuing
Yeah.
music
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
full-time.
So you know,
Definitely.
Tim and I are
Yeah.
going to come to your opening reception.
Yeah.
I was just
okay, please.
Yeah, I was at Howell Gallery this weekend for
Yeah.
Mark Cooper, who was really great.
Right.
But yes, we want to be on your mailing list.
Okay, definitely.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, for
because
sure.
I
Now-
love finding stuff
Sure.
like this.
Now,
out about
once
people.
again, B. Claudia
Yeah.
from Germany says, I want to know, is there a difference in performing in English than it would be in German, considering expressions or feelings?
Oh, good one.
Really love your guest. So
Oh.
she really loves you.
Yes, Claudia, there is, of course. I mean, I've
would
spoken
imagine.
English for like many years, and I think I'm pretty good at it. But singing in German is always different. it's you're singing in your native language. People always tell me, "Oh my God, if you sing in German, there's another layer." Yeah, because I'm more relaxed. I don't think so much about.
There's another layer.
There's another layer.
Interesting.
There is another layer. I can't even explain it. It's like
No need,
I
no
have-
need to. It's
I
where
sh-
you come from.
that's where I come from. I have a show. Claudia, you know it maybe. Probably. Herbert Grönemeyer, Mensch. Mensch means human being.
Yeah.
I think there's
Mhm.
a Jewish word.
It is.
Mensch.
Mensch
Yeah,
means
Mensch.
a stellar
Mensch.
human being.
Stellar human
Yeah,
being.
stellar human
Wonderful
being.
song. Mensch talks about humanity. Herbert Grönemeyer is a German rock star, and I sing this song in German because it's a healing song, and people just get it. And I tell them, just relax, don't worry, you don't understand. It doesn't matter. It's just about the music and the words. Sometimes it's nice to hear words that you don't necessarily
Right.
understand every lyric.
Right.
You can just like take it all in.
Mhm.
And that's I'm more relaxed when I sing in German, but I'm getting there. I love to sing in English, but
But just the meaning, like say if you sang
yeah,
one song in English and sang it the same song in German,
yeah.
would it be coming from a different place?
Interesting.
Yeah,
You know
the
what I mean?
emotional
Yeah.
base. Would the emotional base
Right,
change?
because you have the
Good
language.
question.
and-
Good
That's a good
question.
Mhm.
I do that sometimes. I start a song in English and then I
Oh,
go into
nice.
French or so, and I go back into
You should speak
English.
French also. I mean,
or
four
like,
languages or something.
yeah, 3.5.
And I'm still struggling with English alone.
You're doing great, Tim. I wanted to tell you, you're doing great.
So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, probably that's what it is true, and I can't explain why. I feel very connected with my English songs, but there is something that when I say the words in German, something hits. I don't know.
Yeah, I would.
Right.
I could
Something
imagine.
like-
Okay,
Yeah,
now
I
I've got
imagine.
one for you then.
Yeah.
Your children were raised here.
Mhm.
How does that all fit in with, if your
Right,
emotional base is German, what is their reaction? I mean, they're the children of someone
Yeah.
from somewhere else. I always
Yeah.
wonder about that. They can never have the feelings that you have.
No, they can't.
Right.
And you know what? Deep down, I think that's what I always wanted. I wanted them to get somewhere where they're not so
Right.
affected by all of
Right.
that.
Right.
So they are very much. I mean, the older one who was 4 when we moved, she is more European in a way. I would
Interesting.
say. And she is totally bilingual. My younger daughter is more American. But I mean, both grew up
Well,
here.
that's what I was wondering. Do they speak German and Swiss?
We speak German at home.
Yeah, you do,
and
yeah.
or Swiss or both or whatever. Yeah, we just and then sometimes we mix it. Over time, you mix it. But they definitely feel more. I mean, none of them wants to study in Europe. They want to study in the US.
Interesting,
Yeah.
because our kids, I raised a daughter here. She never wanted to study in Europe, but
Right.
both my sister and my sister studied at the Sorbonne,
Oh,
and we grew up in the Bronx.
Oh yeah.
And that was a really huge thing. Kids here want to go do these study abroad
Right.
programs.
Yeah.
Interesting that your daughter
So-
doesn't.
They don't.
So they would
feel-
understand. So do you ever, like, when you get mad at the kids, do you ever just pop off into German?
Oh my God,
Like,
yes.
was ist das?
Oh my God! Yes, of course I do that. I swear in
Oh,
German.
yeah.
Oh my God.
And of course I get mad in German. And they always tell me I'm so judgmental, and that's you're German. You're so judgmental. They tell me all the time.
Right. It must be your German roots that make you judge others. Like,
Oh my God! And I hope I'm getting better at it. I think I'm getting better at it, but it is ingrained in you. You're like watching something and like, no, that's not good. Or like about yourself also.
Yeah.
That's not perfect. No, this is not good.
Mhm.
And
Right.
it doesn't help.
it doesn't. It
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
help at all.
But it really is amazing how our roots, like our developmental years when we're first starting, set a big part of our personality and motion.
Absolutely.
You know, and it can affect us our entire life.
Oh,
It
yeah.
does
Mhm.
affect you your entire life.
Yeah.
You'll wake up and have
Yeah.
the realization, oh, I know where that comes from.
Yeah, you
I
also
think-
experience
absolutely.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
I grew up here in America, but out in the Midwest,
Mhm.
which is completely different, out in the countryside
Right.
and
Mhm.
farmland and all of that.
Wow.
And I had a dream the other night that in the house I grew up in. I'm like, where did this come from?
Wow, that's like wow. Yeah, I love
Wow.
analyzing stuff
Yes.
like that. I do wonder where that came from. I grew up in the
Yeah.
Bronx,
Yeah.
and all I ever wanted to do was get out. I had a great youth growing up there, wonderful friends.
Mm.
But once I got a taste of the outside world, and my father took us to Europe, I was 4 years old. And then he got Parkinson's, so we never went to places like that again. But Europe stayed with me. And it was just inside of me that I knew I was going to try. It's inside of you. You just can't help it.
You can't shake it off.
Yeah, you just
and the thing about Germany and Europe as a whole is here in the United States. Like again, I grew up 1,000 miles away,
right,
and there's still another like 1,000 or 2,000 miles on the other side of that, and just in the continental United States. And everywhere you go, it's all basically the same culture. There are variations. That type of thing.
Right.
But in Europe, you go 100 miles this way, it's a completely different language, a different culture, and that goes way back. And to the north, that's a completely different culture, completely different language. That's so fascinating.
For us here to learn other languages, you go to school to learn the language, but everyone I know from Europe is like three languages. It's like you're growing up and it's just your mind. That's what it is. Your mind can convert from one language to the next, whereas here we have to study it in school. We never quite
and you never use
it's never quite
before.
We don't use
then
it.
you have like you take a bike ride over the border and you buy your cheese. So you kind of need it also. You need to speak.
Right.
You know,
you had to.
But you learn again in those early developmental years how to do that. How to pick up a language over here and a little bit of a language over there.
Okay, I have to tell you my favorite German thing.
Oh yeah, I want to know.
Kinder eggs.
Oh my God! Kinder chocolate.
Kinder chocolate. There are, for those who don't know, you can get them here now, but you never used to be able to. Tim, it's a chocolate egg and it's a shiny orange and white wrapper. I have it still memorized. And the chocolate, I know people I know from Germany said to me, Wendy, that's not good chocolate. You know what? It's 100% better than Hershey's. It's so good. And in the middle of the Kinder egg is a toy. Yes. There's a toy in the middle of the egg. Now they started putting on the labels here, and for a while they had removed them because kids,
people would eat the toy.
Well, they didn't eat the toy in Germany, but the kids were eating the toy here. The heck is wrong with people? I'm not kidding you.
I know they had to.
You're right. The Kinder eggs were off the shelf. I'm sorry. I just had to throw that in.
No, I love it. I love chocolate. I have a song in my current show, Jackson Chocolate.
Yes.
And I have a box of Russell Stover.
That's so awful compared to what you have in Germany. No, Russell Stover.
But it's like the Russell Stover is in the song. So we have a Russell Stover. I didn't know what Russell Stover was. I thought it was something very naughty. And then Paul Greenwood said, it's a box of chocolate.
Right.
I'm like, okay, I'm going to buy some. I went to Rite Aid. And it's not so great.
Yeah.
It's terrible. It's mostly I know. It's very, very sad. A Kinder egg will leave Russell Stover in the dust. Oh my God!
But my experience in Germany. My dear friend, she was like my little sister. She had come over here to study and then had to go back, and I was just getting back into entertaining, into singing. And we're always talking about, when we find our man and get married and blah blah blah, this and that. And she goes, well, when I get married, I want you to come and sing at my wedding. And I said, of course I will. Well, years later, she hits me up and she goes, I'm getting married. And I just type back and go, I'm coming to sing. And so I flew over, and the day I arrived into Munich, we stopped by, because they live out in the countryside.
Gorgeous.
And we drove out this magical land, it's absolutely gorgeous. And we pull into her mother's house, where her mother, I think, was raised, where she lived. And we go in the kitchen, and I'm just sitting there in the kitchen, and she's got some pastries in the oven cooking, and she's pulling them out and making coffee. And I'm just like, how did I get you? I was just so German. Like, this was the coolest trip ever. No tour guide would have ever done.
No, and the fact you were
I would have ended up there.
You were there as a performer.
So cool.
How cool is that?
But they really welcomed me and took me. And I think then we went out. Our first was a stein of beer, like a small, which was that big, and a pretzel with butter.
Oh yeah.
The pretzel where you cut it in half and put butter in it. I had never had that. That was so good.
Well, also the giant. Have you done Oktoberfest? I know you probably have. You ever?
We were there a week before Oktoberfest.
The giant pretzel.
Oh
they
my
had
God.
The mother of all pretzels. I never had that, and there is like nothing like it. Nothing like it.
But that's what you talked about before, like the people are baking, you know.
Yeah,
they sit down.
that's the culture.
We
Yeah,
call
but
it
it was
like
just-
Kaffee and Kuchen, like which is
Kuchen,
basically
right.
Kaffee and Kuchen is like coffee and cake, which is such an integral part of German
Right.
culture. People would actually really take the time and sit down and
Right.
someone would
Right.
bake this, and I always miss that here in New York. It comes out of it. We're trying to get more places like this,
Mhm.
but where people would just sit down and have a chat,
Right.
you know,
Right.
about like life or so in the middle
Right.
of the day. I think New
Yeah.
York is too busy probably to do
Mhm.
that. And so
But that's what I mean. That was my first introduction
That's
to
it.
Germany
Yeah.
was her kitchen with baking.
With
I was just
baking.
like, this is about
Yeah.
as German
As it can
home
get.
as you
I'm
can get.
smelling it
It
while
was
you say it.
wonderful.
I know with
Wonderful
those
experience.
pastries and coffee probably tasted and smelled like. You brought up a good point. I think we don't do this here. Yeah, we're too busy. But again, the beauty of New York, we are a quote unquote a melting pot. It's all different cultures. You know, Germany, it is. It's just so much a part of who people are over there. You know, you invite someone over and you experience, and you were a guest, Tim.
Right.
You know, the coffee. What did you call it? Coffee and kuchen.
Kaffee and Kuchen.
Coffee and Kuchen.
We have a bread here called, I grew up with called, we called it kuchen bread, but it's cooking bread, and it's got cinnamon and all the kinds of things that you would find, and the cinnamon rolls and all of that. Very big part of the German culture, and to take your time and to sit and to talk and have your coffee and have your cake and all of that. We rush through everything here, and I agree with you, Suzanne. It's part of how we are here. I wish it were different, but I think it's getting worse. You know, this city is just moving so fast, and in my own life, I try and take the time to smell the Kuchen loaf. Not the roses.
Stop and smell the Kuchen loaf.
You tell yourself that the next time I have to take time to.
Well, my
smell the
daughters
Kuchen.
buy cookie dough. You know the
Oh
cookie
yeah,
dough.
the roller
You
cookie
can just
dough.
like eat in the fridge.
Oh yeah, they have the cookie. Oh my God,
They're American.
Yeah, they are. Nothing from scratch for those girls. No way, no how.
Well,
Good for them.
you're watching If These Walls Could Talk with your host Wendy Stuart and Tym Moss, and our wonderful and fabulous guest, Suzanne Mack.
Yes.
And we thank you so much. We so appreciate your coming and hanging
my
out
God,
with us
so
and
much
chatting.
So great.
But now tell everybody, I think down at the bottom, you have an Instagram.
yeah.
Let's get your Instagram up there.
Instagram.
Right. My Instagram.
SMackey65 on Instagram.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Cool.
Oh, I didn't say
And-
that about the. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Tim. The current show, the Fragment Show,
Right.
is a show about the pandemic in a way.
Wow.
And it came really during the pandemic. I didn't know, and nothing was linear in my life, in nobody's life. I guess.
Right.
I was like, okay, there's like all these fragments. The life I thought I once had, I was like falling into pieces, like everyone's was.
Yeah.
You know, and I was just trying to like come to terms with that and finding ways of like, okay, what really matters, and finding also some funny, some humor in it, you know, like of all these situations, and so that's what the Fragments is about. I'm coming to terms with the fragments in my life. So people love to join me on that ride.
I'm going to be here in April to see that show.
And
because
it's right here at Pangea.
Yes,
on
at Pangea. Fabulous Pangea.
the fabulous Pangea.
Thursday, March 3rd, and April 9th.
April 9th, May 20th.
Okay.
Okay. I'm actually going to write that down so when we leave here, I make sure I have that on April 9th and May 20th. Thank you. That would be great. Yeah. That's the beauty of being here, right? Find out everything firsthand. So, we had so many great comments today. Thank you, everybody. Big Claudia, I'm going to Germany and I'm going to come visit you.
Yeah,
I will too. So start baking the pastries and we'll be there.
We're going to have cooking and coffee together.
Yeah, and I want to connect with Claudia.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Suzanne Mack. This was wonderful.
Yeah, I love what you're doing, and
and keep singing.
Yes. Well, we tell everyone, do what you love, really. Life is short, follow your heart, and do what you love.
Absolutely.
See y'all next week.
Yay.